Let me ask you something real. Have you ever felt like no matter how kind you are, some people still don't fully respect you? Like you show up, you help, you respond fast, and somehow it still doesn't feel valued? Here's a hard thought. What if it's not your kindness that's the problem, but how available you are? Think about your own life for a second. What happens when you don't reply right away? When you don't explain every little thing? When you don't rush to fix someone else's mood? It's strange, right? The same people who were comfortable before suddenly start acting different. They text again. They ask what's wrong. They notice your silence.
Nothing about you changed, except your availability. If you're ready to understand the psychology behind this and take control of your mind, subscribe to Rational Chaos. This channel is for people who want to think deeper, move smarter, and master themselves. Now here's the truth. Most people don't miss you. They miss access to you. They miss your attention, your validation, your emotional support. When you are always available, you become predictable. And predictable people are easy to take for granted. If someone knows you'll always answer, they won't value your time. If they know you'll always forgive, they won't fear losing you. Comfort often kills respect. A little distance creates awareness. Here's something uncomfortable to accept. Some relationships are built on the role you play, not who you are. The helper, the listener, the one who always understands, the one who never says no. And the moment you step out of that role, the energy shifts. Not because you became worse, but because you stopped overextending yourself. When you are always available, you slowly train people how to treat you. Not with cruelty, not with hatred, but with assumption. They assume you'll be there. They assume you'll understand. They assume you'll adjust. And assumption is the beginning of invisibility. The more accessible you are, the less mysterious you become. And human psychology is strange. We value what feels rare. We protect what feels uncertain. We pay attention to what might leave. But when someone feels permanent, when someone feels guaranteed, effort disappears. Urgency disappears. Appreciation fades quietly. This is not because people are evil. It's because people are comfortable. Comfort makes them lazy with you. You answer every call. You reply to every message. You fix every misunderstanding. You calm every emotional storm. And slowly, without realizing it, you become the emotional oxygen in the room. Necessary, but unnoticed. Useful, but not valued. And then one day, you decide to breathe for yourself. You don't rush to respond. You don't over-explain your decisions. You don't jump in to save every situation. And suddenly, people feel something shift. Not because you attacked them. Not because you disrespected them. But because the dynamic changed. They lost easy access. And access is power. Most relationships are not built on love alone. They are built on patterns. Predictable emotional exchanges. You give reassurance. They give temporary validation. You give time. They give occasional attention. You give understanding. They give dependence. It becomes a cycle. But cycles break when one person steps back. And when you step back, you start seeing clearly. You start noticing who only reaches out when they need something, who only calls when they are bored, who only values you when you are useful. And this realization can hurt because you thought it was a connection. You thought it was closeness. But sometimes it was just convenience. The harsh reality is this. People rarely complain when you overgive. They complain when you stop. They don't say, "You've been doing too much for me." They say, "Why are you acting different?" Different often just means self-respecting. There is a psychological principle at play here. Humans are wired to chase uncertainty more than certainty. When something becomes less available, the brain assigns it more value. Scarcity creates attention. Distance creates curiosity. Silence creates tension. When you are always present, there is no tension, no curiosity, no challenge, just access. And unlimited access kills attraction, kills respect, and eventually kills effort. This is why silence is uncomfortable, not just for others, but for you, because when you stop reacting, you face yourself. No distractions, no constant validation, no busy emotional drama to keep you stimulated, just you and your own thoughts. And that can feel lonely at first. It can feel like you're losing connection, like you're becoming distant. But what you're actually doing is reclaiming territory, your time, your energy, your emotional stability. You were never meant to be constantly reachable. You were never meant to carry everyone's emotional weight. But somewhere along the way, you learned that being needed feels like being valued. And that belief is dangerous, because being needed is not the same as being respected. When someone needs you, they rely on what you provide. When someone respects you, they value who you are. There's a difference, and you only see that difference when you stop overextending yourself. At first, people might test you. They might send extra messages. They might question your silence. They might even try to provoke a reaction just to see if they still have influence, because influence feels good to those who are used to having it. But when you remain calm, when you respond slowly, when you don't emotionally jump every time someone pulls the string, something powerful happens. You become unpredictable. And unpredictability shifts power, not in a manipulative way, not in a game-playing way, but in a grounded way, a stable way. You are no longer reacting from impulse. You are choosing from awareness. That is maturity. Many people live in reaction mode, triggered by tone, triggered by delay, triggered by small comments. But when you stop being available for emotional chaos, you begin to observe instead of react. Observation creates clarity, clarity creates control, and control over yourself is the highest form of power. The strongest person in any environment is not the one who dominates the conversation. It's the one who is not controlled by it. When you withdraw slightly, when you become more selective, you force people to reveal their intentions. Some will adjust, some will respect your space, some will rise to meet your new standard, others will disappear. And that's not loss, that's filtration. Not everyone is meant to stay when you grow. Some people were connected to your availability, not your authenticity. They were attached to the version of you that overgave, overexplained, overaccommodated. Growth always disrupts comfort, especially for those who benefited from your old behavior. Conscious unavailability is not about being cold. It's about being intentional. It's about choosing when to engage and when to step back. It's about realizing that not every message deserves an immediate reply. Not every opinion deserves your defense. Not every emotion deserves your absorption. Some things deserve silence. Silence is not weakness, it's restraint. And restraint is strength.
When you choose silence, you begin to notice who gets uncomfortable, and that discomfort is revealing. Some people were never attached to you. They were attached to your reactions. They were attached to how quickly you reassured them, how easily you forgave, how predictably you showed up. The moment that predictability fades, their behavior shifts, not because you did something wrong, but because you stopped playing the expected role. There is a quiet power in not responding immediately, in not explaining yourself twice, in letting a message sit without feeling guilty. That space forces people to confront their own expectations, and many people don't like confronting themselves. They prefer access over accountability. When you are always available, you remove the possibility of loss. And when there is no possibility of loss, there is no urgency to value. Think about anything in life that feels limited: time, opportunities, attention. You treat it carefully, but when something feels unlimited, you relax. You assume it will always be there. The same applies to you. The moment you stop being unlimited, you become intentional, and intention commands respect. It tells the world that your time is not random, your energy is not free, your presence is not automatic. It must be reciprocated. This is not about creating distance to manipulate people. It's about creating space to protect your peace. Because when you are constantly accessible, you slowly abandon yourself. You sacrifice your focus. Your priorities blur. Your emotional state becomes dependent on how others behave. But when you reclaim that space, something shifts internally. You feel steadier, less reactive, less desperate for response. You realize you don't need constant interaction to feel secure. And that internal security changes how others see you. People sense when you no longer need them for validation. And that's when dynamics truly change. When you learn to sit with silence, you stop chasing reassurance. You stop proving your worth. You stop trying to control how others perceive you. You become comfortable not being understood by everyone. And that's freedom. Because the moment you need everyone to understand you, you become easy to control. But when you are okay with being misunderstood, when you are okay with not explaining every decision, when you are okay with letting people form their own opinions without correcting them, you detach from the need for approval. And approval is the leash most people live on. When you stop being available for everything, everything changes. Not because you became cold, but because you became conscious. So ask yourself honestly, are people connected to you, or just to your availability? If this made you reflect, comment, "I choose my peace," Let me see who's ready to stop being convenient and start being intentional. And if you're serious about mastering your mind and moving differently from the crowd, subscribe to Rational Chaos. This is where we think deeper, grow stronger, and take back control.